Today, as we look at entrepreneurs and strategic decisions, we're going to explore what's going on in the mindset of the entrepreneur and how can we connect that mindset and a lot of the push and pull of that to making decisions smartly and relatively quickly. So with our objectives, we want to talk about some fundamental elements of entrepreneurial decision making, also what makes that different than decision making in a broader management or organizational context. We're also going to talk about this element of cognition and this element of thinking and what role that plays in the entrepreneurial process. And then lastly, we're going to spend some time thinking about strategic decision making and why that's a unique and significant task for entrepreneurs and how we can be more effective in doing that. So what we mean by cognitive is fundamentally just thinking. So cognition involves this thinking process of goals, of objectives, of the process, and it's balanced against choice. It's balanced against alternatives. And we typically always have an alternative, even if the alternative is the status quo, even if the alternative is to do nothing. So in that way, as you're thinking about concepts and thinking about products, I would say go through and think about alternatives before you decide on what you want to do. What are the different features that I could integrate? What are the different markets that I could pursue? Who are the potential partners that I could collaborate? As opposed to just doing the first thing that comes to mind. And we see that there is this common element of problem recognition, and this adage of a problem well defined is half solved. And there are a number of inventors, I think it was Einstein, but I may be off, that said if they had 100 hours to solve a problem, they would spend 95 hours defining the problem and then 5 hours solving it. So in that way, really studying the problem, really knowing the audience, really knowing the customers, knowing the competition, and then deciding what your solution is going to be among alternatives. So in that way, you're able to go through and you can think about what are the candidate solutions that I have in mind. So I have a friend that's a chocolatier. What's a chocolatier do?
Makes chocolate.
Makes chocolate.
Awesome.
And a bit of irony, she's allergic to chocolate, but she can tolerate it in small doses. So in that way, if you are a chocolatier, you want to start a chocolate shop. What type or category of products should you sell?
Candy.
Chocolate, okay, I'll give you that. Chocolate comes in a lot of form and fashion. What products?
Food.
She could make cake.
Chocolate bars.
She could make chocolate bars.
Fondue.
She could make fondue. Eclairs. She could make milkshakes.
Cookies. Ice cream.
Cookies. Fudge. Ice cream. Pudding. So many alternatives. Many alternatives. How should she evaluate what she should make? A one-person company, very limited capital. What should she do?
Make sure that it's most appealing to the customer, like which products, and then
There's a question of, again, what customer am I going after?
She should go to other chocolate stores and see what they do.
I should visit other places and see what is the market like. Are there gaps in the market?
Consider which options for whatever product would be cheaper and be able to be more mass-produced since it's just her.
Okay. So what is going to be cheap and what can I mass produce because it's just me? What fits that category?
bars.
Bars? Okay, what's it? Who's my competition?
Hershey.
Hershey. Am I going to compete against a company that sells $5 billion of chocolate a year?
You can't.
I can? I could try. Okay, let's do it by hands. Let's do it by hands. I could try. What do people pay for a Hershey's chocolate bar? $1 or $2.
They mass produce.
I have to make a lot of chocolate if I'm selling bars for $1 or $2. And they're able to sell it for $1 or $2 because they have massive machines that crank these out by the thousands per minute. I'm one person.
You need to hire some people.
I don't have any money to hire people. Nor can I spend $30 million on a machine.
Find a new business.
So bars are not my thing. So we can write off bars.
Should make a bakery.
What's next?
You should sell a specialty product to fill a niche.
Okay. A specialty product such as
Maybe like truffles or something that she can like
truffles. What's a truffle?
chocolate with chocolate, like
Well, that's what she did. So truffles. Tell me what a truffle is again?
it's like a sort of a softer chocolate like
Okay.
thing.
People know Godiva?
Yeah.
Okay. So truffles are the small, inch and a half chocolate shell, some kind of interior. It might be chocolate on the inside. It might be white chocolate and raspberry and caramel and a host of different things, but little pieces of chocolate. What do you pay for that at Godiva? Okay, once again, let's do it by hands. What do you pay for that at Godiva?
I'm sure it's like $2 a piece.
About $2 a piece. So a box, 20, 30, 40, depending on the size and the type. But you're somewhere around $1.50 or $2 a piece versus $2 for a bar. Truffles I can make in small batches and trays. It's a higher end item. And it's something that, unlike Godiva, people know who, well, they've been sold recently. Who owns Godiva?
Godiva's been sold.
So they were owned by a larger company that you likely all know.
Hershey.
Not Hershey. Not Mars. No Campbell Soup.
Really?
So the Campbell Soup Company owned Godiva for a long time. What's that make you think about the Godiva brand? It might not be quite as luxurious as you think it is. But nonetheless, what she did in thinking about alternatives was to go through and think about cakes and ice cream and cookies and bars, and she kind of landed on truffles. And that filled the gap for a while. But what we also found in the last couple of years, particularly in the States, is there's another dessert product that's rapidly taken off. Cupcakes.
Fruit as well.
And your $2 and your $3 and your $4 cupcakes are the rage. So in that way, she found that there was a cupcake store that opened up down the street that had lines of people outside. Georgetown Cupcakery. So in that way, again, lines of people outside waiting to get their cupcake, and her store sits empty. So in that way, again, you go through, you think about alternatives. Should she have gone to cupcakes?
No.
Okay. Let's go. Hold on 1 second. So for us to be able to capture what you're saying, we need to go by hands. Should she have gone to cupcakes at that point?
No.
Why not?
If one store has a line, try to select a business that's booming, not one that is already solid.
Okay. So,
Like chocolate covered fruit is
okay.
booming right now.
So look for something else if people are already leveraging that. Should she have gone to cupcakes?
I think she should have. She should have tried to undercut the business and
Okay.
try to steal some of the customers.
So do you try and go after what's popular?
I say, yeah, you should at least give it a try and put your own spin on it.
Okay, give it a run, try and make it unique or different.
But also try and go where the puck is going to be.
Okay. Where's it going to be? Is it going to be in chocolate fruit or it's going to stay in cupcakes?
I don't know too much. About it.
I think it'll be
Okay. We'll do one more. Yep.
She shouldn't drop truffles.
Okay. So maintain what you do if you like what you do.
If she could do cupcakes as well, she should only do them if she can make them as good but cheaper.
Okay. And then also try and add another product line. So there's the element, again, of cupcakes and truffles, particularly if they're kind of higher-end gourmet cupcakes. They might be companion products. Now, she probably shouldn't start selling camping equipment just because that might be popular. But if there are things that are companion, if there are things that feel like they may go together, it might be something worth doing. So let me move on to the next one here. So when we think about entrepreneurial decisions, they come with some limited amount of information. We're trying to do things that are novel, that are unique. We don't have perfect information on what exactly is going to happen in the market. We don't have forever to do the analysis. So if we wait too long, that window of opportunity may pass us by. There are other competitors that may emerge that may take that market that we're trying to get after. We have to be relatively accepting of risk, and there are consequences. So when you look at retail space in Georgetown, it's about $8,000 a month for a small shop.
Jeez.
When you look at kitchen equipment, basic kitchen equipment, you're at about 30 grand. For a lease, it's not uncommon that you may sign a 3-year lease. So you have 36 months times 8 grand a month, plus your kitchen equipment, plus whatever fixtures or fittings or furnishings, you're at about a $300,000 bet that you can sell truffles. And this is not to open a big restaurant. This is not to open a big nightclub. This is to open a one-person chocolate shop. So that's what we mean by major consequences, and that it's a significant investment of money and time, and you don't exactly know the outcome. So in that way, you need to be strategic with it and think about revenues and profits very early. And you don't need an accounting degree to recognize, well, I think I can sell it for this price. My expenses are going to be about this. I'm going to have some other equipment that might be one-time cost. I'm going to have some ingredients that are going to be recurring cost. And let me get a ballpark sense of what my profitability may look like. You also want to get some sense of market share, and that you can take a bottoms-up approach and think about, given my expenses, what amount of product do I need to sell to break even? And is that amount of product a reasonable goal given the market that I'm trying to serve? So I can look at the demographics of the area, the population, the income. I can look at the other stores in that region, get a sense of their foot traffic. And I can look at what my competitors are doing, particularly for competitors that are public, meaning that you can buy their stock. So if you look at McDonald's, if you look at Starbucks, you can go online, Google Finance, Yahoo Finance, and others, and see what were the annual sales for a Starbucks. You can see how many stores do they have. So how do I know what the average sales per store is? What do I need to do?
You can do math. I mean,
This thing called division. So if you have 100 million in sales and you have 100 stores, you do $1 million per store on average. So that gives you some sense of, again, how are competitors doing? What does the average mean? What does the average mean?
Some are doing better, some are doing worse.
Half are doing below that, half are doing above it. So keep that in mind as well, and that the Starbucks that's by Union Station in Washington, D.C. is a busy Starbucks. The Starbucks that is in the Target, where I live in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, is not a very busy Target. So in that way, again, half or above, half or below, but it gives you a starting point to begin thinking about the market share and how your competition is doing from a financial perspective. And then also from the product category, as you have ideas and concepts, you can look and see she's not the first chocolatier to sell truffles. Now, there are not a lot of people in our region, in D.C., that do it. There are a few, but there are quite a few in New York. There are quite a few in San Francisco. There are a couple in Philly, a couple in Vegas, several in Chicago. So you can look in these other areas and see how are they doing. What are their price points? What are their product lines? I can go and visit some of them perhaps, talk with them perhaps. Will somebody that operates a store like yours in Chicago talk to you?
Maybe. If it's
No,
like,
they might.
What do you think? They might. Why might they?
I mean, at that point, at least, especially if you're beginning, you're not seen as a threat. You're not seen as a competitor.
You're not seen as a threat, particularly if you're trying to open your shop in Washington, D.C. So in that way, as you're able to find individuals that may have a competing product, but not for a competing market, you're in a totally different city and not even near one another, and really no plans to go to the other area, you might find that people are fairly open with you about what they're doing, what they've learned, what they wish they'd have done different. And so again, those are worth exploring as well.
they can also learn from you if you're.
And you can share along the way.
They could also hope that an expanding market could mean that it could be like the next big dessert, and it
Okay.
could help their design.
They might want to grow the market. They might want to grow awareness of what they're doing. And in that way, again, they may get something out of it. Or it might just be the benevolence of business owners that are trying to help one another in a non-competing fashion. But when we look at strategic decisions, we want to recognize and think about there are a number of considerations to put in place, and you want to be sure that you have the resources and that you have the mindset to put those resources to work. There are a few things that come to play when you're looking at different types of decisions that are strategic. One is certainly complexity. Where you're going to go to lunch today isn't, I would argue, a strategic decision. You may consider it. There may be alternatives. There are costs. There are consequences of you go hungry, or you go somewhere you don't like, or you go somewhere and like it. But it's not terribly complex. So when we talk about strategic, we're looking at bigger decisions, more complex decisions, where there's some uncertainty of the outcome, where there is some rationality involved, and that we have a goal in mind. And we're operating in an environment where we believe others have similar goals. And for most startup ventures, there's a profit element to that as well. And that we have some sense of control on the decision. So if we're working with something that's complex, that's uncertain, that there's some element of rationality and control exerted, then we're in that kind of strategic decision-making space. So which direction is our friend here headed?
Up.
Up. It's the easy answer. If you know MC Escher, that's not the case.
In a circle.
Oh, uncertainty.
Where is he going?
Which direction is he going?
Same direction.
West.
all over the place.
It's going in a circle.
You really have no idea when you look at the graphic. When you look at a small piece, he's going up. So when your frame of reference is very narrow, he's going up. But if you look at our friend here, he's going down. If you look here, the trees are growing to the right. If you look here, the trees are growing to the left. So in that way, again, sometimes the entrepreneurial environment is similar to this, and you think you're going a given direction, but that's not the case. And/or the direction that you're going is different than the direction that everybody else is going. And maybe you're going in the right direction, or maybe they're going in the right direction. So in summary, there are two big takeaways we have for you. One is, hopefully, we've helped you understand a little bit about entrepreneurial decision making and why it's critically important for entrepreneurs, particularly in the earliest stage of the ventures. Secondly, that is a unique and significant task. And that way, oftentimes, as entrepreneurs, we might be tempted to act. We might see value in making a quick decision, But I would argue in time there's more value in making thoughtful decisions and making sure that we're operating sufficiently quickly, but particularly when high stakes are involved, that we've thought through some alternatives, we understand the criteria by which we're evaluating those, and that we can make the right decision at the right time.